Oh, is it going? Yes. All right. So, so what I'm talking about is when you take a solo, the number one thing to avoid is the solo button. Or you're just going. I've had students in the past that do that, and they think that they're playing. And I used to do that when I was a little kid. You know, again, I think it's a sign of youth. And, you know, having something to prove. Being like, oh, look at all these notes I can play. Even if it's like in time, that was kind of a ridiculous example. But even if, like, you know, if you're playing, especially like, oh, my shining star, and you're like, it's like, nobody wants to fucking hear that, you know? So, seems like it goes out without saying, but it's not true at all. It's like people do funny things when they solo. So a solo should be something that serves the music and serves the moment, right? And we just talked about there's a bunch of different things that you can use as inspiration for your solo. First and foremost, I would say, learn the source material. Learn what the song is. What is the melody? So if you're playing Shining Star, you are my shining star, you know, because in the old, in like traditional like string bands and stuff, or pretty much just like traditional cultures in general, that I've studied, when what happens is the community gets together and you're singing this song, and whatever the chorus is that everybody sings, you all sing it together, and then you have somebody that has like a verse, could be improvised, could be whatever, but then everybody sings together, and then at some point everybody needs to take a break, either to dance or to just take a break from singing or whatever. It's like you've sung the song like 10 times, and it's like, okay, we don't want to let go of the feeling, we don't want to let go of the song, but we still want it to go. So you have an instrumental section. Number one thing to do is to play the melody again. So you're still playing the song, but now instead of singing it, you're playing and do some kind of little ornaments. So if the melody is you are my shining star, so you can just do things like
put a fifth on it, yeah,
and little grace notes. So now I just put a little thing in between, but I'm going to play it again. You are my shining star. So I just did like a little... So a really, really good thing to practice is to be playing the melody, create variations of the melody, come up with different ways to play the melody. And that's where your theory knowledge comes in. Like, I was straight up pentatonic there, which this song really lends itself to the C major pentatonic scale. But then you can throw in the blue notes, which would be basically, technically it's E flat in a C major blues scale, but really it's any transition note. So between C and D,
hanging out on it.
D, yeah. Especially on this song. This from a C major to F major 7. You don't really want to do these kind of... It gets a little bit gnarly. Okay. Not to say that it can't be done, but, So, use your ear. Experiment. Be musical with that. So once you can play the melody.
Right.
You've written variations. Again, improvisation is spontaneous composition. That's what Charles Mingus called it, and I live by that. It's not... You're not just playing a bunch of stupid notes, even if they're in the stupid scale. I don't care about the scale. Nobody cares about the scale in the audience. What they care about is feeling, and they care about the song. That's why they paid $30 to come see you play. Probably $5 is for like the lights, you know. but and then the drugs, and the scene, but
And the
there's
girls.
nothing and the boys, whatever. The main thing is the feeling. The reason for
Yes.
the whole experience is what the music feels like. If you're a thrash metal band, it's gonna have a feeling, and you gotta play that, and that's what you're selling at the show. And if it's a love fest,
Right.
that's what I prefer. It's gotta reflect that, and you as an artist, that's what you're doing, is figuring out what that means to you and how you achieve that using these notes. And I know that's a little bit abstract, so let's
It
talk
is.
about
Ideal.
the specifics. No, but the specifics are, you know how to play a melody. You know how to figure out the melody, right?
I do.
So start with that, and then experiment using this pentatonic scale.
Yeah. And then.
And what I was saying before with the spontaneous composition, before it becomes spontaneous composition, it needs to be intentional and laborious composition in the practice space. That's what you do in the practice space. When you get on stage, you're not practicing, you are presenting. So, ideally. And so in the practice space, literally sit there and compose variations. And in that way, you become comfortable with those variations. When I'm playing these, something like that, I've played all that stuff 1,000 times. And probably more than that, and especially pentatonic licks. I've played a lot of pentatonic type. I played in Grateful Dead cover bands for a while. But I practiced those licks once upon a time. So they're ingrained in me. So I'm not sitting there on stage going, oh God, I'm going from the 2 to the 3, and then I'm using the 5th as well. I'm just hearing it because it's something, again, like language. At one time, you practiced all the words that you say. You practiced them over and over again, and then you practiced word order, and you practiced all that kind of stuff. But I watch my little nephew do it all the time. He practice sentences. He just sits there and practices saying things to nobody, while he's playing. And that's what you do in the practice room. And you have to be able to create that. Part of learning how to do that is transcribing solos, learning licks, which is what we're supposed to be doing here, but also taking that and then creating your own variations. Again, using that little pentatonic scale. What was the other thing I needed to talk to you about? Okay, so once you have that, you can play the melody and you've created variations. You want to try to create licks to fill in the spaces. Mm-hmm. So, in other words, so in your mind, you're playing the melody. You are my shining star. It's pentatonic licks. These things. So, let's talk about just some pentatonic licks, because that's just a sort of like ornamentation. It's just like pretty things that you put on top. It's not really melody. It's just like little sparkly, shiny things. Pentatonic scale is made for that. So if you, so the pentatonic scale looks like that, and you have a couple of really stable notes. The most stable note is the root. We're in C, so C is the root. G is the 5th. It's a stable note. In other words, this is something that you can stack on a melody, and it'll make it just a little bit structurally more solid. And the lick of Pentatonic Land, if you listen to any country song or Grateful Dead song, you're going to hear that a million times. So all I'm doing is going up to the 6 and then back to the 5. Right. Or you could go, or you could slide, anything that you can think of about that. And then you do the same shape here if you got your pinky on the 5 and then you're going 2 and 3. Only you have now the C.
Exactly like that.
And there's so many, melodies come from that too. Just, whatever. So just wiggle your fingers.
Yeah.
And then, and when you're
and then
when you're
finish the melody. Okay.
just
out
think about
the
like
mouth.
if you were just like kind of humming to yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and that's really what the instrument's supposed to be, just an extension. You know, if you want to get in the habit of just being ba-da-da, ba-da, ba-da, ba-da-da, ba-da,
Right.
ba,
Pretend you're a
ba,
loud singer.
ba-da, ba-da-da, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And you want to connect your voice to that instrument,
Right.
right?
Okay.
That's it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's like, start there, mean something when you play it. Piano's not, well, I mean, you can do textures. I mean, you could be like,
Well, more with organ is a lot of touch.
you know, well, anything really. I mean,
Okay.
so, I mean, you could all, okay, so let's just talk about textures. If you're going to do a texture solo, it's like maybe, texture solos are great, the non-solo solo that we were talking
Yeah.
about. They're great, especially if you got a noodly player
Yeah,
in your
guitar player,
band. Yeah, guitar, yes, of course, it's a guitar player or a
Maybe
sax
single
player.
amount.
So they're just going, and then it comes to your solo.
Yeah.
You're not going to just go, oh my God,
Right back
look
it
at
up.
me. You're going to
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
and then you draw everybody in, and then everybody starts getting weepy. And it's like nobody's going to remember the guitar solo after that. And it's not because you played like a bunch of notes, it's
Right.
because you played the moment, you know. And what that was, there's no end to how you create a texture. That's why you sit and experiment. But what I just did there, it's a very simple concept.
Yeah.
Chord tones.
Right.
So, especially if you spread them out,
Right.
you know, C major chord, C, E, G. I got C, G, G, E. And I can just do, I'm just playing notes from the chord. Again, this is something that I practice for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Wait. Can you say
So-
that?
so instead of
are the
playing-
you're playing the 3 and the.
I'm playing, so what I'm doing is you have C, E, and G, right? All up and down. So I'm taking out the middle note
Yeah.
and then doing inversions.
One
So
and
instead of that one, I'm doing this.
5.
You know. So 1 5 3 1 5 3 1 5. It's just one way to do it. Make sense?
Oh, I see what you're saying now.
So chord
Oh,
tones
yeah. But
are
you're,
C, E, and G.
You're just inverting, leaving. Oh, okay. Oh. That's,
But you can do it anyway.
Wow. So that is a good thing to practice.
Fuck yeah.
Oh.
Always.
Well, because I should be practicing more inversions, but then also just leave out the third finger.
Well, you should just know anything that
I
you
know,
can do
right.
to understand what the notes of the chord are.
Yeah.
And to be able to also find them
Rapidly.
immediately. Yeah. So that, again, just playing chord tones from the C major chord, and then when I go to this F, it's an F major 7. What's so cool about this
yeah,
and
you
so
need to include the
impactful
E.
is the E. Yeah.
Right.
So you can do this kind of, and experimenting
not
with
the
these
s-
sounds,
Right.
you know.
But it's the E that you would want to have in your, if you can, here and there. Keep reminding.
You just got to know what it sounds like. You
Yeah.
learn what that sounds like. There's a difference between,
Right, but
And as
that's
soon
what
as you
makes
get
the
that
song
E-
the song is the E. Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's a completely different,
Yeah.
like just, oh,
Definitely.
damn, that's, oh, they're going there.
Yeah.
Because, and especially coming from the C, there's a common tone with this E, which
Right.
just sort of smooths it over.
That's why the organ is really nice, just doing almost
Oh, yeah,
nothing
sure.
in the most of it in that song.
Oh,
Because
yeah,
it
he's just chilling.
But how those two chords are just like one note.
Hmm. So the organ is providing texture throughout the song.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
was it-
Cut.
yeah,
Is that like
cut.
the longest video
Cut.
ever?